Hello, everyone. This is Sandra Ann Taylor.
And Sharon Ann Klingler.
And we are so happy to welcome you to the Art of Card Reading Masterclass. We're so excited about this class because we really want to give you the power that card reading puts in your hands. And we're joined in this class by some wonderful authors from Hay House, of course. Colette Barron-Reed, Denise Lynn, Kyle Gray, and Bradley Valentine. And the six of us through this course are going to give you some suggestions, some techniques, some ideas on how to use the cards to really, really impact your life. And if you're a professional reader, how to help you enhance the lives of others. But before we get into the details of that, we're going to start and talk about how we got into card reading and some of the ways that card reading has changed our lives. And now Sharon was the first one. I have to admit, she was the one that turned me on to card reading.
In the womb, right?
Right, in the womb. Oh my God, yes. If you if you didn't know this by now, we're identical twins. Anyway, she was the first one, so I'm going to let her talk about her history with card reading and some of the things that she has learned and wants to share with you.
Okay, so again, I'm Sharon Ann Klingler, and I am a reverend with the largest spiritualist church in this country, the Church of the Living Spirit. I'm also a registered medium with the Lilydale Assembly, which is the oldest and largest spiritualist community. In my college days, my thesis focused on the significance of psychic occurrence in identical twins. That was followed by a degree in psychology and 10 years experience of work in a psychology practice. But it was my own experience as an identical twin with Sandra that made me want to find greater ways of communication. You know, when we were little, we would feel each other's pain, and we would, even if we were in different cities, and if we would finish each other's sentences and know what the other person was thinking and saying. It was really quite, even buying the same blouse on separate shopping trips. It's really kind of funny how strong the communication was between us, that was nonverbal and even physical at times. And so I was looking, I grew up wanting to find a greater arena of communication to that collective mind, which clearly Sandra and I had with each other. And that led me to card reading, because to me, card reading is a way of communication with that huge universal divine collective mind. So I started reading cards over 50 years ago, at that time, the Rider-Waite deck was the only thing available, and so I became somewhat of an expert in that. But I really, really wanted more. I wanted to go further, and Spirit, happily, was just desirous as I to oblige that. So one time I'm going to tell you a few stories here. One time I found myself doing a reading for a client, and I started coughing, and I couldn't stop coughing. It was almost like uncontrollable coughing. And it finally occurred to me after a couple of minutes, more than a couple of minutes of this, to say, by the way, is there anyone in your spirit world who had problems in the throat? And her father had died of throat cancer. And so immediately, as soon as that was identified, the coughing stopped. And that moment started my career in mediumship. Now, it's a career in mediumship does not mean you stop your career in card reading. I love the cards. They speak to me as a clairvoyant. I see things visually. And of course, the cards allow you to see things visually as well. But now I want to tell you another story. I was doing a card reading for another client, and I was looking at one of the kings. I can't remember which one at this moment in time, but I was being compelled by the whiteness in his shirt. And I think there was a design or an overshirt or something like that. But I kept being, I'd look away at other cards and I'd be pulled back. And then I'd start to hear the name White. And I knew it was a man because, of course, it was a king I was pulled to. And so I said it over and over to her. And this is how cards trigger intuition, just like that. If you trust and you give yourself permission to say what you're getting. I was compelled by the color white. Then I started feeling not the color, but the word. And then it identified a man to me. And so, she was absolutely unable to identify Mr. White in her spirit world or in her private life, in the physical life that she had. And I said, well, this happened. I got pulled back to this king and this Mr. White 3 or 4 times in this reading. This is not an accident. You better write that down and remember we got it, because you're going to know what happened. And so she did. And she called me 3 years later after the reading, and she said, she reminded me of the event, and she told me that her husband had had a heart transplant and the donor's name was White. And so it's clear that Spirit was intervening in both those cases, and the intuitive mind was intervening in both those cases. And so it really was an experience that took you farther. It's very important to learn from that as well. And that even though the client wasn't able to identify what I was getting, that I didn't just turn on my heels and say, I must be wrong, I must be wrong. When that happens to you, tell the people for whom you're reading, whether it's a client or a friend or whomever, tell them that to write it down, to notice it, to remember it, because at some point they will know what it means. And she did know what it means. So it was very, very exciting for me. And I have to say that card reading, not just in those 2 instances, but in all of the broad scope experience of card reading, has changed my life several times over. It took me to knowing Spirit. It took me to investigating and working with the Ascended Masters. It took me to teaching and to writing. I've created a number of books and kits, including Power Words and the Akashic Tarot. And the Akashic Tarot was really designed with the intent to put the Akashic records into the hands of everyone who wants to tap into the records, because that's what the intuitive mind is about, is moving into the greater collective mind within which are all the records that are held. And also everything holds the records, the trees, the snow, everything outside you. It's so wonderful to know that this body of insight and information is so absolutely available to you. And so I was just delighted to, take my direction towards new development, new studies all the time. I also want to say, give me 1 second, getting a little dry here. I also want to say that in terms of the Akashic Tarot, if you'd like, you can see some of the Akashic Tarot cards and some samples of tarot spreads on my Facebook page. So just go to Facebook, and it's Sharon, Sharon, Ann with an E at the end of it, A-N-N-E, Klingler, Klingler. If you go to the videos there, you'll see lots of different examples of different types of tarot spreads and also different Akashic Tarot. Now, I want to talk to you now about intuition. This intuitive mind is so readily available, and it's unlimited in its scope. And you can see through the intuitive mind into history and into the future. It's impossible, literally impossible, to exaggerate the powerful link between intuition and card reading, intuition and mediumship, intuition and your own self-discovery of your divine reality. They are all interlinked and connected in ways that are inextricable. And so that's why the Akashic records are so available, because the intuitive mind, in your intuitive mind, is available to you at all times. It is the voice and the vision of your higher self. And so what I'd like to do now is take you through some processes that are very quick and easy, intuitive processes, but also have a strong connection to symbols that are used in the tarot, okay? And so the first one that I want to do with you is the symbol of doors. Now, obviously, doors are openings to new places, openings to new opportunities. And we have a card here. This is a card from the Akashic Tarot, and it's called Ad Sum. Ad Sum is a Latin word that means I arrive, I am here, I attend you. And as you can see, there's a door in the corner of this card here, and a man, this woman here, is sitting at a desk studying her book, and a friend of hers in the living is bringing some more books to help her research and help her study. And she's being distracted. You can see an angel at her side distracting her, and she's looking up for a moment. And also the other spirit people, there's her grandmother, there's an ascended master, there's even some spirit people there. So the door is wide open to new study, new learning, and all of the people that can help her with this. So right now, I would like to take you through your own door process. And so just take a moment to take a deep breath and close your eyes. And when your eyes are closed, I'd like you to identify one simple situation or relationship in your life that you would like to know whether or not there is an opening there for you. And I want you to give your imagination the job here. And I want you to see or sense a door in front of you. Right there. There it is. Right at the snap of my fingers. There's the door. Don't question. Don't doubt. And I want you to notice if the door is open or closed, what color the door is, if it's even just a little bit ajar, if there is anyone standing on the other side of the door, and how you would emotionally feel about approaching that door and opening that door. Take just a minute or two now to really experience this door that represents the opening to this relationship, this creative project, this new job that you thought about, or a possible move, whatever you identify, this is the doorway to that. What does this door tell you about that? And just let yourself feel the emotions and the answer to that question. Don't go into your left brain analyzing, just feel it. Okay, now take a deep breath and open your eyes up again. Now, I have to tell you that you can do this process anytime. If the door seemed closed or even locked to you, don't assume that this is an entryway that you will never go through. Know that to everything there is a season, and there is a time for us to enter a doorway in this moment, in the next moment, next week, next month, next year. So you can ask yourself this question anytime whatsoever, and any question, anything that you want to know. I have an opening. I'd like to know what the doorway, what the opening is to this project, this job, this move, or whatever. And you can see a doorway there. And use your imagination. There's two things that are absolutely required in developing your intuition with the cards or without the cards. And that is absolute surrender to what happens in the imaging side of your brain, the right brain, which is where we image. People say it's only my imagination, but it should feel exactly like your imagination because it's where we image. Spirit does not talk to us through the left parietal lobe where we do math and judge and measure. That's ego's domain. Okay, Spirit talks to us through the imaging side, the imagination. So you don't have to figure working out what's the difference between your imagination and the information you're getting, because when you create the intention to get and know the answers through the cards, through your symbols, through your intuition, Spirit, your higher self, will drop the imaging right into your right brain, your imagination. So trust everything that you get. That's the second component. Surrender to your imagination and trust everything absolutely. Okay, that's a deal. We got a deal. Okay, all right. Now on to our next one. And I'm going to replace the card here soon with a new card from the Akashic Tarot. And this is if you have any questions about your life, about which there is some uncertainty. And this intuitive experience is not so much getting the answer of what you're uncertain about, but finding out about the measure of time, the quality of uncertainty, the way, the path, the phase is going, okay? So here we have a card called Up in the Air from the Akashic Tarot, and you can see this man and woman standing on a hilltop. And up in the air is a hot air balloon, a beautiful hot air balloon with a basket. And inside the basket is the very thing that they want to know about. But it's up in the air. They can't see into the basket. And so what I'd like you to do with your intuitive mind now is just take a moment, close your eyes, identify any situation in your life about which you've been uncertain about the outcome or indeed even just the phase of it. And just identify that. When am I getting my new job? When is this loan coming in? You know, whatever that is that's uncertain, the thing you're uncertain about, just simply identify it in your mind's eye. And as soon as you identify it, there, I want you to turn your intuition to your right brain, and all of a sudden, there is a hot air balloon in your imaging. It might be right over your head. If you don't see, that's fine. Let yourself feel it, know it. Some people are clairvoyant, some people are clairsentient. You will get it exactly the way you need to get it, but you must trust it. So let yourself see this hot air balloon in the sea. Is it above you, in front of you, to your left, to your right? Is it speeding through the air? Is it going far to the right or to the left? How far away is it from you? How high up in the air? Is it coming to land? Let yourself just have a sense of the phase that this uncertainty lies in. Let yourself just experience that. Don't go into your left brain analyzing, doubting. There's a big balloon with a large basket, or it could be a big balloon with a little basket. And it's coming very close, and it's right over my head. So anything over the head is something you should know about immediately or very soon. If it's speeding far to the right, it might be a great deal of distance between you and now when you're going, between now and when you're going to get that answer. So let yourself just experience this balloon and know that it carries to you the very situation that you seek. And take a deep breath and ask your higher self any last question about this, and make yourself get a word, a simple word right away, the first word that fills your mind. And it might just be the word now. And so it's coming sooner than you think. So take a deep breath now and bring yourself back. Bring yourself back And know that you can see things that are up in the air and situations that are up in the air anytime you feel an intuitive desire to tune in with that. By the way, there is a continuation of this exercise I won't take you through, but if you're really very, very desirous of seeing what's in the basket, you can even imagine yourself sending out a rope of light and pulling the basket down and being the tether line to the basket and pulling it forward. And then imagine yourself taking a glimpse into the basket to see where the project is, what the symbols of the project are for you in that experience. I want to tell you also that, as we said before, all of these intuitive images are images that you can see in the cards. This is why I bring some of these images to you. Doors and windows, like in our last process, are openings. So anytime you get compelled to notice a door or a window in any deck that you're using for a card reading, and that opening is compelling to you, let yourself speak to that intuitive force. Let yourself speak to, I really feel compelled by this door. It's open halfway, so you have a little bit of way to go all the way through. That might not even be in the interpretation of the card itself, but if you have an intuitive pull to a door or a window in any card, let yourself speak to it as a possible opening. Now, it's not too likely that a lot of card decks have hot air balloons in them, but I will tell you that if you get compelled by anything in a card reading that takes you towards the top of a card reading, that can actually, like if you have a spread of cards and you keep getting pulled to the cards at the top, those might be the things that might be up in the air for your client or for your friend. So know that up in the air doesn't only come with the symbol of a hot air balloon, it also comes with the idea of where the location of the cards are. So if there is a coin card that is way high up above the reading or at the top of the reading, it's something, certainly because it's at the top, it is something that the client is seeking to achieve. But there also might be questions that cause it to be up in the air. And let them know that they will be able to find the answer soon. But since it's in the reading, there's almost a certainty about it, but there's some unknowns that they have yet to discover. All right? So know that placement also tells you about what's up in the air. Okay, very good. Now I want to talk to you about another symbol that you will get in tarot cards. And this is depicted in, and I'm using the Akashic Tarot because I certainly have a fondness for it, and also because they speak to me very much. This is the card in the Akashic Tarot called Wishes Fulfilled. And I really love this card, excuse me, because again, it has lots of doors and windows that are wide open and showing again opportunity. But as you can see, there's a table here, and the table is just loaded with bounty, bread and wine and baskets and coins. This is the storeroom for a great estate. And as you can see, there's lots of tables, lots of shelves that have lots of things. Even the floor has baskets on it. And the estate is so fulfilled that even the windows open onto the horizons of the estate. But I want you to focus on in this card is this table. Okay, now this is an intuitive process. You can see tables in many different tarot decks. Tables that have cups on them, tables that have wands and swords and other devices on them. Okay, so tables are a very significant intuitive symbol that that you can use with or without the card readings. I very often use the table image when I'm trying to make a decision about whether or not to hire an employee or create a partnership with another person, hire an accountant, a lawyer, a professional of some sort. Because why? Think about in terms of the old cliche, what is he bringing to the table? What is he bringing to the table? So at this moment in time, and this is going to be a very short process, just like all of the other ones that we've done. Right now, just close your eyes. Just close your eyes and take a deep breath. And I'd like you to identify any person in your life that you would like to know more about, whether or not they're going to bring support and help and nurturing. What are they bringing to the table? What are they going to, whether it's a lawyer, whether it's a lover, whether it's your child's friend, and whether or not that person's going to be supportive of your child. Just identify who it is. And as soon as you identify who it is, with your eyes closed, give your imagination the job and see a table right in front of you right now. And I want you to notice this person coming to the table and see if this person does the table start out already full? Does this person add more things to the table? How lush and plush and fulfilled is the abundance on the table? Are there meals? Is there china? Is there wine? Is there even money if it's an accountant? What's on the table? And how does this person come and interact with the table? What does this person bring to the table in a very literal yet metaphoric way? And just take a moment to let your imagination go wild with this and see everything. Somebody out there got somebody bringing a turkey to the table, and I meant a live one, not a Thanksgiving one, but a live one. Anyway, oh, isn't that interesting? Thank you. See, even spirit comes when you're teaching. Okay, so this is one of the things that spirit wants to tell us by showing me that turkey, because if you get a sign of Easter eggs, summer roses, Christmas trees, Christmas presents, Halloween costumes, jack-o'-lanterns, if the person you're asking about brings something to the table that is seasonal, that indicates this time when perhaps the greatest activity, or indeed the culmination of your work with this person, will come to fruition. Always notice everything you get. And so spirit dropped that turkey gobbling right on my lap, no, on the table, so I can tell you about that. So open your eyes and come on back now. Open your eyes and come on back. I love when spirit works that way. And guess what? There are even a number of tarot decks that do have turkeys in them, and certainly many, many, many more that will have fall harvest and other seasonal things, but also tables as well. All you have to do is, what is this person going to bring to the table, and see the table, the first thing that you get. And there's your answer. And anything seasonal will tell you about the time. Okay, one quick last thing. The other image that is in many tarot decks is a path. And I don't know if it's in many, because I don't actually even remember one in the Rider-Waite, but I know that there are a few with some paths in there. Okay. So, but in the Akashic Tarot, this card is called Paths Unknown. And as you can see, she's standing at the fork of the road, and there's a number of paths, 3 different paths, one very dark, one very bright, and one kind of medium. And right now, you can use the image of a path to make a decision which way to go. So close your eyes right now, and you have a decision before you between 2 different things. I don't care if it's like, should I have chicken for dinner or a vegan dinner? Well, the answer is vegan, maybe, but it could be, should I take this class or that class? Should I go to Rome or should I go to London? Should, whatever it is that you would like to choose between two different things, decide what that is right now. And as soon as you decide what the two are, immediately give your imagination the job to see two paths in front of you. And one path is one of the things, and the other path is the other thing. You determine, okay, the left path is going to Rome, and the right path is going to London. Okay, you decide which path. And as soon as you decide which path, Spirit, your higher self, your intuition will shine a light on which path to follow. Bingo, there it is. You don't hesitate. There it is right there. That's the one to take at this time. When you choose between two different paths, you don't have to eliminate the other. It's just, this is the one that Spirit's telling you to do. Okay, come on back, open your eyes. That's a very quick thing. We have lots of different questions on yes, no questions, but that is how to answer an either or questions with a typical tarot symbol of a path. I think John Holland has a path in his cards, and I think you have the path and the energy oracle cards. Mm-hmm. Why? Because we're all taking steps on the paths of our lives.
That's right.
And now you have a little intuitive process where you can see which path to take as soon as you think it and identify which one. So I hope you liked those different visualizations. Allow yourself and your intuitive mind to be open and active during any card reading. The second you get compelled to say something, even if it's not in the cards, you say it, just like I said, the name White and all of the other things that you can come to you can do it and say it if you give yourself absolute permission to trust everything you perceive. You will never be taken down the wrong direction. I promise you that. And I thank you very much for sharing in these intuitive processes. And now we're going to swing it over to my identical twin, Sandra Taylor.
Yes, and we're on similar paths.
Yes, we are. And at the same table.
Yes, at the same table, right. And I want to thank you, Sharon, for those processes. And, if you're new to card reading, or if you've been doing it for a long time, one of the best ways to get into it or to get deeper into it is to meditate on the cards. And I'm going to be talking more about that. But before I go on, I want to tell you that in our next session, Sharon will be having a video that has some more powerful techniques on how to develop your intuition, which dovetails so much with the process of card reading and trusting yourself as you're getting into it or as you're getting deeper into it. So definitely tune in for the next session because there are a lot of great videos in that one. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how I got started. I got started a little after Sharon. She was a neophyte in high school starting it, and I started in college, and mostly for fun and the way to meet people, because whenever you pull out those tarot decks and oracle cards, people come swarming around you. They all want to know what the future holds. And as I started using them for fun and social connections, I realized that there is some power here. There's some real power here and some accuracy, and just so many little things and big things happened. Once I was trying to decide on some courses and that I was going to take, and composition was about as far from my mind as it could be. But I did some readings and I kept getting directed to take this English composition course. And what I found was that this gave me the foundations of all that I needed. It was a wonderful course for my writing career. And it also gave me the passion for writing that kind of carried me through the beginnings of the career when I was still kind of finding my legs in it. Powerful, powerful message, and it seems like a simple little choice, but it was definitely guidance for me. Another case with when I was reading in the dorms, I was reading for a friend, and a card came up. I believe it was the Tower card in the Rider-Waite, and I just had a feeling that there was a car accident coming in her future. And I told her that, although I try not to be negative, but I do want to warn people if something is coming up. And so, I said, I can't be sure, but this is what I'm feeling about this interpretation. And so she took that with her. A couple weeks later, she was at a party where a lot of people were drinking. She had gone with her boyfriend, and he had been drinking. And they were about to leave to go home, and she remembered the card reading that said, beware, there may be a car accident. And so she asked someone else to bring her home, and her boyfriend left separately. Well, later she found out that her boyfriend had been in a car accident, and he had gone through a red light because he had been drinking, and he was slammed into the passenger side, right where she would have been sitting. And he was not hurt, little scratch, little bruise here and there, but she would have been considerably hurt if she had gone home with him. Now, when that happened to me, it was so significant, a shift in energy, a realization of choice, that I said, I really have to get deeper into this. And so I started doing it, all the time. And I found out that the accuracy and the guidance is what really compelled me to keep going. I felt like I had to investigate what the information would be. And I started doing daily readings for myself in order to get this information. And if you want to, whether you're starting out or very deep into the card reading experience, if you want to really become aware of the potential for change in your life, the potential for shifting your energy, card reading is one of the best ways to do it. And in fact, that's what card reading is all about. It's all about energy. You don't have to be an identical twin. You don't have to be special or psychic to do card reading. The reason is it's about the energy. And as Sharon mentioned, all of the information that comes up in the readings and all the information you're seeking is held in the Akashic records. It's held in the air and the energy around you and within you. And you can tap into those answers that you're seeking in the process of card reading. The Akashic records are considered a field of information, a consciousness field of information. Could be spirit consciousness, consciousness of man. But it has all the information of human experience, natural science, the spiritual experience, quantum physics, everything you could want to know, technically and spiritually, but also everything you would want to know personally, because it also holds all of your past life emotions and events, all of the present meanings of why you're going through what you're going through, and all of the future potentials. And notice I said the word potentials. The future exists in potential. And that's what we have to realize when we're doing card readings. Nothing is written in stone. The answers that we get are based in the present energy. In fact, everything exists in energetic potential. And the answers you get in the cards are based on the present energy. And this is one of the beauties and the purposes of card readings, in my opinion, is that as you look at the energy, the cards can give you ideas of how to change things, how to shift your consciousness, how to shift your personal energy, and therefore how to shift the results. If something exists in energetic potential, your shift in energy can bring the outcome closer in the timeline, can push it away in the timeline, and can change it entirely in your future. And that, to me, is a far greater reason for reading cards than just finding out what the outcome could be. And so there are some interesting stories about people who use this knowledge to change things. And I just want to tell you about them now. One of them, and I'm going to show you the cards that she pulled, that I pulled when I was doing a reading for her. One of them was a woman who was so thwarted in love, she believed she would have to move to another town in order to find, but there wasn't a single man available that would resonate with her and in this town. And so we did a reading, and I'm just pulling 3 of the cards from her reading. I'm just showing you. And this is what she got, and let me just explain it to you. The first was the Journey card upside down. The second was Gabriel, the Archangel Gabriel of the 5th chakra, communication, upside down, reversed, and I'm going to talk about reverse positions later. And the third was the Loving Man. Okay, so what's the message here? It became pretty clear with the Journey card reversed that she wasn't likely to move out of town. But the message from Gabriel, the Archangel, actually said, okay, it's time to change your self-talk. It's time to change your thinking, your negative assumptions about the universe and about the expectation. Literally had formed an expectation not to meet a man in the town she was in. And what happens when you have expectations like that? They forge your reality because that's an energetic truth for you. Becomes an energetic truth. So what this message to her was, you know, stay home. Stay home, work on your expectations. And what she did, she followed that guidance and created a self-talk that said, I can be happy in the here and now, and open my heart and my life to the love that is available to the happy me, to the person that really believes in my deserving of love. And she really worked on that, and in her own hometown. And within about 6 or 7 months, what happened? She met the Loving Man in her reading. So this shows you the power that you have when you have a reading to change your energy, to believe in the message and not just look for the outcome. That was a powerful lesson for her. And there's another story that I want to tell that just shows one card. We're only going to show it for a minute. This willingness to, it has to really, when you're reading cards, it's not just a desperate need to find out an answer. There needs to be a willingness in your mind and your heart to open up to the answers and suggestions and messages of change. And I had a man who was, felt like he was in a dead-end job. He was in a dead-end job, had been really passed over for promotions. He was going to resign. And he had written his resignation letter over the weekend, and he was going to turn it in on a Monday and give them his 2 weeks notice. Now, he did a 1-card pull, and this is asking about the resignation letter. And this is the card he got, the Patience card. A beautiful angel in the winter where there's not a lot of external activity, holding a clock. And he thought, maybe I should just hold on a little bit. This is after years of trying for promotions and not getting them. But he thought, I'm going to follow this guidance. I'm going to wait. And he felt that he could do that. He had lived, for 5 years without getting the promotion. So what did he do? He held back on giving his resignation notice and his 2 weeks notice on Monday when he was going to. And that Friday, the Friday at the end of that week, he heard that the head of his department was retiring. Now, he had never been promoted before, so that didn't mean a lot to him. And yet, 2 weeks later, he still listened to the card, waited with patience. He still opened up his heart to the change that could bring. And 2 weeks later, he was asked to fill his boss's job and become the department head, which was a higher promotion than he had tried to achieve in the recent years, all because he had listened to the guidance. Now, if he had turned in that resignation letter and given his 2 weeks notice, he would have been gone before they had the opportunity to ask him to take his boss's place. So this is just another example, and I'm telling you, sharing these examples with you so that you can see how the message can be something that moves you and goes into your heart center and makes you reevaluate things. Have a willingness to change an intention. He was so frustrated, he was determined to, leave that place. And that woman was so frustrated, she was determined to leave her city. But they both got different messages. Now, they might have gotten messages, go ahead and leave, and that might have gone to a different outcome. It's just important to be open to the options that you get. And these are the things that the Akashic Records brings, the information of the options, the messages and the guidance that you can have even during times of struggle. And I want to share something that happened with me that was also something that was surprising to me. And that was about a week after my mother's passing. I drew my daily card. I do draw cards every day. And I was in deep grief. It was a very difficult time for me. And I pulled the appreciation card. And I was in such deep grief, I thought, are you kidding me? I'm so miserable, I'm going to appreciate. And then I started looking at it. And I saw that she was holding one rose. And I thought, this could be a message from my mother. And to look at what I have to appreciate from all the things that she brought into my life, in spite of the fact that she's surrounded by brambles in front of her and to the side of her. And I also noticed then the rose bush behind her. And I thought, at some point I'm going to be out of this grief and be able to turn around and see all of the wonderful things that have been planted in my life, both by my mother and myself through her guidance. And I even noticed the lace handkerchief that this woman was holding. And I realized that represented the tears among the joyous memories. The tears of my grief, in spite of the rose in my hand, the joyous memories and the grief, they could coexist. This message was a powerful, powerful message. It even brings tears to my eyes right now, because it helped me on that day and for months to come. And I had to realign myself. I knew that it was okay to grieve, and I was going to have very big emotions grieving, but I also realized that I had the power to shift into a wonderful memory. And that was the rose, the beautiful rose that she had given me. And speaking about giving me, I do believe that oftentimes Spirit puts the cards we need to see right in our hands. When we're shuffling, we can ask for Spirit's guidance. And it's amazing how they can rearrange things so that we pull exactly, just like I did that day, pull exactly what we need to hear. And I want to share one thing now. I do meditate on the image of the cards, and also my energy oracle cards have affirmations with them, and I often meditate on the affirmation. Now, one day I pulled, and this was not near the time of my mother's death, but I pulled on my daily pull the card of attachment. And if you'll see, it's just such a lovely card. She's chained up, she's got a mask, it's representative of our tendency to hide the fact that we're attached to something, okay? That we live through life and we put this mask on and we think we're all fine and want people to think we're fine. And so I got this card in the morning, and I didn't understand it. I thought, I don't get it. I didn't feel like attached to anything important. And so I just said, okay, I'm going to be willing to look for this. And what I did was I went through the day and I found myself thinking about an issue that my daughter was going through. And I hadn't realized that I was very attached to an outcome that she wanted in her life and that I wanted for her. And so I every time I noticed, I started thinking about that and hoping and being attached. I thought, wow, Spirit even knew ahead of time what I would have to be dealing with today. And I would do a releasing intention. And what I want to do now is show you, and we're going to do another meditation in just a minute, show you how you can meditate on the card. Even if it's not such a great picture, you can meditate on the affirmation. So just take a look at this card for a minute. This is going to be like 30 seconds. We're going to just open ourselves to the image and think about something that you may be attached to. It may be a behavior, it may be a thought, it may be an outcome for you or for someone else. It could be a thing, a substance, money, it's anything that you feel you may be attached to. And just take a deep breath and open your heart now to the willingness to make this intention. And this is the affirmation that is in the guidebook with the energy oracle cards for this card. And just take a deep breath, think about what you want to release. And affirm, I release attachment and I choose peace. I am strong, free, and able to choose the thoughts and behaviors that honor me. Let that sink in for a minute and let that be your intention. And let yourself take another deep breath. And bring that deep breath into your heart center and know that you have the power in your heart to come back and live with this intention to let go. Okay, so finally, I want to talk about another meditation. Here, I want to talk about drawing a card for an event. Now, I often draw cards for events, like the story of Dave with his resignation. He drew a card for an event, and that was very illuminating to him. And I, this morning, drew a card for today's event. And surprisingly enough, the card I drew from the energy oracle cards was the door to Spirit. Now, this is not uncommon. You know, people tell me, how do the cards know? They ask, how do the cards know? I had a woman who was thinking of selling her home, and she asked the question, should I sell my home? And she got the journey card followed by the contract card. Clearly a move that is contracted. And then her daughter was so impressed, she was considering going to work after high school or going to college. And she shuffled them up and she got the teacher card with the books piled up. Now, here's the thing. This woman called me and said, how did they know that I was the one shuffling? That was my question. The cards don't know. Spirit knows. The records know what your intentions are. Let yourself just connect with that. And the accuracy is about connecting with the issue, not necessarily the outcome, but the issue that you're inquiring about. So I pulled this card, the door to spirit, and I was happy and originally surprised, but then I thought, it should not surprise me that spirit showed me the door to spirit. And so what I do when I meditate on an image, I look at the image and see what it means to me and ask what the message may be for me. So let's take a moment now to do that. Let's take a moment to look at the image of this door to spirit. First of all, notice all the lights, the orbs, the sparks of light flowing in from the night sky into the clouds of the physical world. These represent the countless spirits available to us when we open that door. Now notice the golden door with the lovely spring flowers. They're just very light, little bit spring daisies wrapping around the door sill. And these represent the new beginning for you, a spring of spirit coming into your life. And of course, notice the peace, the power, and the freedom of that beautiful white dove taking flight in the waves of unlimited spiritual energy, bathing you and entering your life in order to change it. So as you notice these things, let yourself take all this in. And now take a moment to close your eyes and take a deep breath. And take another deep breath and let go of any thoughts, any analysis, and gently drop your consciousness into your heart center. Feel the peace there. The heart center is the personal door to spirit. So feel the sense of your eternal soul right there and let yourself rest in that beautiful peace. And as you do, you begin to feel the loving energy of spirit all around you, those orbs, those loving lights all around you, filling you with love like a warm embrace, filling you with their caring and tenderness. And their love makes you relax even further. Now, as you get deeper into the sensation of spirit, you may also feel some other sensations, perhaps a lightness or a heaviness in your arms or legs, perhaps a bit of buzzing vibration in your palms or the top of your head or any part of your body. All of this is normal. All of this is normal. So just let yourself relax into the feelings and open up to the loving, helpful spirit all around you. And you may even begin to sense or see the colors of the lights or the waves of energy of individual spirits. Just let yourself be open to a loving presence. This presence is here to assist you and inform you. And as you feel that presence close to you now, you know that he or she has a message for you. So take a moment to see if you can get a sense of who this spirit is. It may be an angel. It may be a guide or a loved one. Do you get a sense of any colors, any energy in your body, perhaps even a name? Don't strive. Just take a moment to be open to receiving. And as you open up, let yourself receive the guidance from this wonderful being. You may want to ask a specific question or just ask for a message. And that guidance may come in the form of an image, a single word or a phrase. Just let yourself relax and be open to receiving that now. You don't have to know the exact meaning. Just absorb it and know that you will receive more information in time. For you have opened the door to the spirit world, a world that holds unlimited potential for you. Just let yourself receive the love that is always there. And I'm going to count upwards from 1 to 3. And at the count of 3, you'll be back at this time and space. So just let yourself come back slowly now. 1. Coming back slowly. In the days, weeks, and months to come, you'll find yourself becoming more and more intuitive, receiving wonderful guidance from the cards and inspiration in many unexpected ways. 2. Coming back slowly. As you let go of doubt, you know that you can trust the wisdom you receive from the cards and from your own intuition. And 3, let yourself come back slowly now. Let yourself open your eyes and gaze at the image on this card as I read the affirmation for the door to spirit. Know that this is your truth. See yourself moving through that door as you affirm, I relax and connect with my spirit's wisdom and power. I live in the peace that my spirit brings, and I know that the world of spirit supports me. Well, take a deep breath and smile at this truth in your life. And let's come back to this time in space now. I was amazed when I pulled that door to spirit card. And I thought, I've really got to bring this into people's lives.
Right. It's a door too.
It is a door. There are lots of doors in cards like that and in many tarot cards and tarot decks. And the reality is when we're card reading, is that we have to let ourselves see and go deeper into the meaning of the various things that we find out from the cards. And there are so many things. We had some meditations on cards and ways that you can interpret them. And there's so many things that we have to give you in this course. And we want to talk about the wonderful teachers that are sharing this course with us, and we have a video in a minute about it.
Excuse me 1 second, let me interrupt you just 1 second. Before we go on to that, I just want to mention I want to go back to when you had the experience of the car accident.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to tell you all that spirit very often shows car accidents to identify the spirit people themselves.
That's true.
Who passed in a car accident.
Right.
So I want you to be open to understanding that even if you're doing a card reading and you have no intention to talk to spirit, if you suddenly get an image of a car accident, this is not in any way the case that it is in, the strongest likelihood is that the person's going to have a car accident. It could very easily. I get car accidents all the time.
Me too.
And it's people who passed in a car accident or who were in a car accident, that type of thing.
Mhm.
The other thing
I had failed to mention that when I was doing that reading, I had asked her, have you recently been in a car accident, or has anyone in your family or friends passed in a car accident, before I went on to say, well, be conscious that it might happen.
And if they don't know about it, don't forget that they might not know of a person. That might their uncle's brother or father could have passed in a car accident before they were born. So you need to tell them to check into that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do get information on the car accident, and I think if I remember correctly, this happened for you. If it's a possible car accident to come, you want to be very cautious telling people, oh, there's going to be a car accident. Get more information if you can. I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm mixing this up with another story, that you had actually seen an alcohol bottle or something like that in the image.
I did. Yes, I did see alcohol in the
so
image.
If you get a potential car accident, ask for any other pertinent information that could inform them. Because, of course, if you just go blindly saying, oh, I see a car accident, oh, you don't know someone in your spirit world, oh, then it's coming to you, then they might get so freaked out they stop driving. So you want to ask for more insight and more information. So you might get that bottle of alcohol.
Yes, I did.
Something like
I did.
that.
It was a very long reading, and
yeah, right. And there's
didn't want
lots
to
of
take
things.
too much time for the course here.
Yeah, but I would
we
say
want to-
90% of the time I see a car accident in someone in spirit who had
Yes,
one. Yeah. So always ask that and tell them, if it keeps occurring to you, tell them to find out. Just if something keeps coming to you intuitively in a card reading or any kind of reading, tell the person, and they don't know what it's about, you tell them to find out about it. Yeah.
Very good advice. So we're going to talk about a little bit about the other people and hear from the other people. Let's talk about Colette. You want to talk about
yes,
Colette?
I wanted to say, this course includes Denise Lynn, whom I have known for 30 years, more than 30 years, I think. And we met speaking in Australia, like I said, 3 years ago. And there's just, you won't find a more gentle and compassionate soul that's out there. She just is a sweet, sweet, sweetheart. And then, of course, Colette, who has wonderful depths and so much insight about the different cards, that you're going to get a lot from both of these wonderful women teachers. And you are going to mention?
Yes, Kyle Gray is also a part of the class. He has a wonderful connection to the angels and has produced a couple of wonderful decks. And the other participant in our classes is Bradley Valentine, who is a sweet, tender-hearted, funny, and very wise man who has a direct pipeline to angelic wisdom and to the divine, the timeless energy of the divine. A wonderful teacher in himself. So we're actually going to see a video from the four of these wonderful people and see what they have to say about what's coming up in their classes.
Hey everybody, I'm Colette Barron-Reed, and I'm here to welcome you to this amazing course. So I have a fun story because my very first exposure to cards or card reading was my Scottish nanny named Mrs. Kelly. Now, she was probably in her early 80s when she first came to look after my sister and I, and she used regular playing cards to determine people's destinies. She would do readings for people at my house when my parents weren't there. And I had to say that there was really something meaningful that I felt from it when I was little, because when she looked at the cards, she was able to sort of zone out, and I would actually watch her energy when she was reading one of her friend's cards, and I could tell that there was something beyond an average person looking at a deck of cards when I was sitting in the room. So I knew something meaningful was connected to looking at cards as a way to see the map of someone's life. When Mrs. Kelly did a reading for me when I was 14, she talked to me like she was telling me about a map of my journey. And I was really, really impressed by it, but also because actually years later, everything she said was true. But it was the way she was able to tell me about my 14-year-old life without really knowing anything about me, because I hadn't seen her at that point since I was 7 or 8. When she came to visit and she read my cards. So I remember feeling that real mystical sense of the unknowable, the invisible power that came with what happened when you're witnessed by someone reading cards. So fast forward, Mrs. Kelly died when I was 15, and then at 17, I got my very first tarot deck. It was the Rider-Waite-Coleman. And I got a really old book on how to read tarot that's now out of print. And it was really focused on the more esoteric method of reading tarot cards, which was deep and psychological. And there was this concept of the mystical and how we as human beings could tune into that with the tarot cards. So I found that whole thing really fascinating because I became really obsessed. So this is part of my journey with card reading, because I became obsessed with the possible mystical energy of the universe. And at 17, at 17, you're not exactly the most mature being on the planet. And I wanted to know, what does it all mean? What does life mean? Why do we suffer? How can we find our destiny? Where is love? I wasn't a happy teenager, and so there was so much turmoil in my life. And to be honest with you, the tarot really helped me kind of focus on where I was at and give me hope about what could happen. Now, I started working with a book on tarot called the Psychic Tarot, and I got a deck called the Aquarian deck. So I switched from the Rider-Waite-Coleman deck to the Aquarian deck, and the focus was really more on the deeper esoteric meanings, which means spiritual meaning of the cards and reading them. So the infusion of spirituality as opposed to fortune telling was really present for me back then. Like, I was young and I was interested in spirituality and I felt very lost. So when I worked with this particular Aquarian deck, I really found that I started to recognize the patterns in my life and in other people, because of course I was reading for my friends, and we were all in like high school, but they made sense. And I didn't particularly think I was very psychic, although I totally was, but that wasn't the point, because you really don't need to be psychic to read oracle cards or tarot cards. But what happened was that I got really good at reading the stories, and so then I recognized that the tarot was a tremendous mirror for where the other person was at. So I started reading for other people before I ever became a professional, because I was fascinated and thought it was the most curious, amazing thing. So then I was given a gift when I was 22 years old of the Golden Dawn Tarot. Now you can tell there's lots of different tarot decks. There's hundreds of them. But this one came from a particular organization, spiritual organization, a group of phenomenal people at the turn of the last century who again, brought in a mystical history and mythology of how we evolve as spiritual beings having a human experience. So again, being that, young and always looking for answers, because again, I was not feeling like I was in alignment with myself. So I really got involved with reading for myself, but mostly for my friends. Anyway, let's fast forward to when I got clean and sober when I was 27. And this was the real turning point for me, a real turning point for me for how cards affected me in a way that wasn't like me feeling lost and trying to find myself and then helping my friends and like looking at all this, the kind of like the mundane aspects of somebody's life. When I got clean and sober, I needed to see a therapist, right? And I did. And I started seeing a Jungian therapist who used the Handel Tarot deck as part of my therapy. So I began to associate the tarot not with fortune telling, not with having my friends around trying to figure out if their boyfriend is going to cheat on them, etc., which was, of course, the wasted time that I did, and trying to find a spiritual life within all of that wasn't exactly the most accurate way of doing this. But once I had gotten clear and gotten clean and sober, and I started recognizing that the tarot was actually a tool for psychology, and that I could see my spiritual progression and psychological healing through the use of tarot cards because my therapist used them with me. So I will say that card reading, certainly if I look back from when I was a little kid and how affected I was by Mrs. Kelly, my Scottish nanny, and then, when I got my own tarot deck and how intimate it became, even though I wasn't a healed person by any stretch of the imagination, but I still had that access to people because the cards told stories. But then, of course, seeing it as a healing tool, as a psychological tool, by doing therapy with the Handel Tarot, it completely changed my life because I recognized how vast the potential was to work with the tarot, and then consequently later down the road, oracle cards or divination in general, to use it as a healing tool, as a way to navigate your reality, and as a way to really help another person, especially, to find their way.
Hi, I'm Kyle Gray. I am a Hay House author of 6 books and the co-creator of 3 oracle decks. I first discovered the power of cards when I was 15 years old. A family friend introduced me to angel cards, and they told me that angels had the potential to speak to us through this deck. And I remember the first card I picked, it said synchronicity on it. And I believe that when I look back at that experience, it was a synchronicity. It was a coincidence or a God incidence that was inspired by the divine in order for me to make this a big part of my purpose. And for the last 15 years, I have dedicated my daily study to angels and speaking with angels and the divine through using cards, oracle cards, and tarot cards. And when I first started to learn tarot and angel cards simultaneously, I really found that not only did I have the potential to receive guidance for myself, but I also had the potential to give people information and insights to their own life that would really help enrich their life and help them feel more connected to their highest good and their highest truth. And the first time I ever gave someone a reading, I received information that had life-changing information for them. And the information really helped them carve their life. And I'll say that when I started doing readings at 15 years old, I never realized by the time I was 17 years old, I would have a 3-year wait list from people wanting to receive a reading from me. And one of the readings that really changed the course of my life was this one time a lady came to me, and through the cards and through intuition, I recognized that she had a sister. And when I told her that she had a sister, she said, "Yeah, I've got a sister." And I was like, "No, but I feel you've got 2 sisters." And she said, "No, I've only got 1. But the cards were adamant that she had 2. And for the next hour of the reading, I found so much information that she had another sister. And upon investigation, it turns out she did in fact have another sister that was sold on the black market. And that sister was in a different part of the world. And through the cards, I was able to locate her in Coney Island, New York. And she was living in Scotland at the time. And then they were able to find the sister. And what was really strange is all 3 sisters went to see 3 different intuitives or psychics. And all 3 of them told each person, similar information. And that similar information helped them all find each other, and they were reunited. And that information reached headlines in Scotland and then set me up to write a column in a national newspaper. In the first week, 5,000 people wrote to me. And now, 15 years on of me doing and learning angel cards, I have done over 15,000 sessions. I'm very lucky and blessed to say that I have shown so many people how to use cards for themselves as a daily practice and how to read cards for others to bring through information and insight from the divine. And the one thing that I have found is that no matter who you are, no matter where you've come from, you have the potential and the capacity to listen to the divine. And cards and working with oracle cards are an incredible tool that will support you to be an amazing listener to those messages.
Hi, I'm Denise Lynn, and I am honored and delighted to be able to share some information with you about card reading. I got into card reading when I was a child. I was about 8, 9 years old. My family had some pretty big troubles, and my brothers and sisters and I got all divided up amongst the relatives all across the United States. My younger brother and I went to live with my grandparents in California. Now, my father was an atheist, he was a scientist, as was my mother. They didn't believe in anything woo-woo at all. They were scientists. But my grandparents were different. And my grandmother was a tarot reader. She was an astrologer and a numerologist. And she said, Denise, these are hard times, but I have some ways that you can make it through it. She used to say, the roots go strongest and grow the deepest when the wind blows the strongest. She said, you're going to have really deep roots because of all these challenges. So she trained me in different modalities to help me through what she saw the difficult times ahead. There were some difficult times ahead. But one of the things that she taught me about was the tarot. She said, in those times in your life when you don't know which direction to turn, when you are at odds with life, use the tarot. It will always steer you right. She talked about energy, how everything had energy, and how we can sense that energy. She also trained me in intuition. She'd hide things and tell me to use my intuition to find it. And over the years, I began to discover the deep wisdom in my grandmother's words. I also discovered the deep wisdom in using a tarot deck. Now we have oracle decks as well as tarot. I was raised with the Rider-Waite deck, and that was a deck I've used for most of my life. As I got older, I continued to hear an echo of my grandmother's words. When times are hard or when you're uncertain, use the tarot deck. I remember I was invited to teach in a country in Europe. And when I went there and met the promoters, the head promoter, he seemed kind of hard and most interested in money. And I didn't like him. And I thought, well, this is not a good match. But I remember going back to my hotel room that night, and I did the tarot. And the tarot said, go with this company. Go with these people. It'll be good. And I'm like, my mind is saying, no, it's not a good match. And I did it again. You know how you do. You think, oh, that can't be right. And this time I got equally great cards. The tarot was saying, go ahead. And I said yes. When my mind would have said no, I said yes. And you know, I worked with that company for 15 years. I went twice a year, about 20 days out of the year, every year for 15 years. And it was a great match. And the person who was so hard, he had some health issues and he became very soft and loving. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made. I would not have made that decision except for the tarot. Over and over again in my life, I found that even when my mind thought one thing, the tarot allowed me to touch into a deeper truth, a deeper awareness. And later in life, I got really excited because I began to do tarot and oracle readings for others and teach other people how to do it for themselves. And it continues to be and will always be a really important part of my life. I am really delighted and happy to have this time with you, and I'm so much looking forward to our journey together.
Well, hello, magical you. I am so happy to see you here and so glad that you listened to your guidance from Source and the Divine when it was telling you you really need to take this class. My name is Radley Valentine, and I am the author of, so far, 5 tarot decks, 1 oracle card deck, 2 more decks in the works, and 3 books. And one of the things that I love more than anything in this entire world is to take the fear out of spirituality. And so that's one of the things that I'm going to be teaching you. I'm going to be teaching you that there is nothing here that you absolutely cannot do, that I am no different than you. And I'm going to be showing you all of the things that I've learned from my 30 years of experience in working with angels and tarot and oracle cards. Now, this is just the stuff that I have learned that works best. You have a lot of teachers in this course. That is a great blessing. But I always make this joke that if there are 5 tarotists in a room, you are going to get 8 opinions. Well, you've got way more than that. So I'm thinking probably 10 opinions on every single topic. And you know what? I'll be just as guilty of that as anybody. The thing you need to remember is that you take what all of these different teachers are telling you, try all of it, don't leave anything out, and just take the pieces and the parts that resonate for you, that sound like the right thing for you to do. I wanted to tell you a little story about how I found the cards. I didn't start out that way. When I was young, I was looking for a different kind of spirituality, something that wasn't just the everyday mode. And what I was drawn to was angels. I had this great mom, and she was into angels, but mostly she was just into her angel coffee cup and her brooches and all of the little things that had images of angels on them. But I was a little different. I was the kid that was born with something extra. And my mom knew that. And she was always saying, listen to that, trust it. And so I went looking for the angels in my own very special way. And when I found the angels, what I found was tarot cards. Now, I know, strange bedfellows, seems kind of weird that those two things would go together, but I didn't know any different. I just knew I had a teacher who thought they went together. And I absolutely turned into a cardaholic. I have like 60 or 70 decks at home at this particular point in my life. But it took a while for me to find a deck that I actually wasn't scared of. And what did this tell me? It told me that if I was scared, then there were probably a lot of other people who were scared too. Well, you know what? I took the fear out of that. I took the fear out of it for you, and I took the fear out of it for me, and I'm going to show you how that works. Working with cards on a regular basis has changed my life. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Stop for a moment and think that if you had immediate and unlimited access to getting answers to questions at any given moment of your life, to something that had you concerned, that's something you didn't understand. And that doesn't mean that these always have to be big drama moments. They don't. It can be something as simple as, do I wear the red shirt or the blue shirt? I mean, it's a little silly actually to do that, but you can do it. You can do it. But you can also use these cards to go, do I change my career at this particular point in my life? What about my relationship? Do I stay or do I go? Big things can get answered in your life by using the cards. I also love using them from day to day. I love to just get up in the morning and pull a card and go, what's today going to be like? Or what do I need to know today in order to get the most done that I possibly can? I've had a lot of clients whose lives have also been changed through this process. People who got information that helped them in order to have a more magical life, to take fear and worry out of their world. I remember one time back when I was an accountant, and yes, I used to be a certified public accountant. And I had this amazing girl that worked for me. Her name was Kathy. And Kathy came to me and she said, Radley, I can't get pregnant. Why can't I get pregnant? What's wrong? When am I going to get pregnant? And she knew that I threw cards. And so I pulled out my little deck of cards and I shuffled and I pulled a card for her. And I was like, Kathy, you are pregnant. And she's like, no, I'm not pregnant. I took a pregnancy test last night. I'm not pregnant. And I'm like, go take another pregnancy test. The next morning, she walked into the office. She walked into my office. She shut the door and she went, ta-da. She was pregnant. And I asked her, just like, do you want to know the sex? And she's like, yes. And I told her. And 8 months later, she had a little baby boy. These are the kinds of things that you can find out about your life. Information that you can get for loved ones and friends. Or maybe, just maybe, you're in this part of your life where you know it's time for you to make a career change so that you can help change other people's lives and bring them peace as well.
And we're back from the video. Wasn't that exciting to see all these teachers? There's such a font of information that's going to be coming to you through this course. And you'll be able to send in your questions and get all sorts of different techniques and different ideas from different people. It will expand your card reading experience immensely. And speaking of questions, we've gotten a lot of questions, and we want to answer some of the ones we got tonight, and we had gotten some previously. So let's start with that. The first one, there were actually several questions about the decks and what's the best deck to use? How do you choose a deck? What decks do we prefer?
What decks we were using tonight?
We were using the Energy Oracle cards and the Akashic Tarot, our own decks. And of course, all of the people that you just saw in the video have wonderful decks. One of the ways I choose is I look at the picture on the front, sometimes open it and read the guidebook if it isn't sealed, and see what resonates. See if the pictures resonate with me, see if some of the card descriptions resonate with me. And sometimes I'll just hold them to my heart chakra and take a deep breath and ask for information. And if you get a pleasant feeling, a sense of harmony with it, you can follow that intuition that would be a good deck for you to use. Okay? So another question that we had about the card readings is the reversed position. Now, the reverse position is a difficult thing. A lot of people don't understand this. And one of the questions here talks about when you're in a reverse position, and I showed how the reverse positions in one of my examples, when you're doing a card reading for someone who's sitting across the table, if the card is reversed for you, does that mean it's reversed for the person? And that's how I do it, and I think that's how Sharon does it.
And for most people, if
Most
it's reversed
readers,
for the reader, that's when it's reversed.
That's when it's reversed, right. And if it's upright for the reader, that's when it's upright for the readee, let's call it.
Yeah, and what Sandra showed you in her reading was how she saw the cards.
Yes,
so
I saw the cards.
The cards that were reversed in that sample reading were reversed towards her, even though obviously tonight they weren't reversed towards the camera.
Right, because I wanted to show you what that was about. So another thing about reverse, we got a lot of questions previous to tonight's session, and a lot of people had questions on how to read the reverse cards. And basically, the best thing is to read the description in the book. Not all reverse cards are the opposite of the upright meaning. They can sometimes be an either more or less exaggerated meaning of the upright meaning, and sometimes a very different meaning. So read what the description is. But I do want to encourage you to let yourself use your own intuition for interpreting whether it's upright or reversed. You might read the description in a book and get a totally different sense of what a card means, and that has happened to both of us.
Yeah. And I want to say, read the action of the card. We saw this card before about choosing paths, and now here I'm showing it to you upside down, reversed. And so if you see it upside down, you can imagine the action would be she's falling off her path. You could literally say, oh, I've fallen off my path, or she's fallen off her path, or you were on the path to become a writer and you've fallen off your path. So also you can take a look and tell the story of what the action of the card is. When a person's on a path in a card and it comes up reversed, then you can say, oh, she's fallen off her path.
And it's also helpful to check the cards that are near the reverse card. Right. And that can indicate something about the reversal of the card.
Yes.
Bottom line is, honor your intuition. Go with there isn't any right or wrong. Go with your intuitive interpretation. Definitely read those reverse directions in the guidebook, but let your heart tell you and the picture tell you what the meaning may mean for you. So what are some of the questions you have?
We have a number of kind of similar questions. What happens if there's a negative influence? Can a card reader's energy affect the reading? And how do you know when doing a card reading if the information is given by a light or a dark energy? So negative influence, dark energy. First of all, I don't want you to be afraid of dark spirits entering the room, because, you know, you do invite spirits when you start to do card readings, even if you don't ever identify the spirit people, because you're making an invitation to the Akashic world, to the entire universe. I want to reach out to the source of light and information. And of course, very often the sources of that information are spirit. But you are a well-lit person on your journey, on your path of discovering your own light. Light does not attract dark. Okay, maybe if you go sit in a bar for 12 hours, you might start attracting some negative spirits or negative people, only because you're not in that moment feeling well and lit or something. But really, you don't. It's not something you have to worry about at all. So you will only attract well-lit spirits. But in terms of the dark and light energy of information, it's not so much whether or not bad spirits or good spirits are talking to you, or indeed a bad reader or a good reader is talking to you. There are 3 standards that I've used my whole life. I created this many, many years ago, inspired by Charles Thomas Casey, who's Edgar Casey's grandson, and a lecture of his that was talking about the compassion and the bringing of the higher message. And so there are 3 standards in good information. And here they are for you. The first one is the information verifiable? Now, the truth of the matter is, just like that example of I'm telling this woman that I keep hearing Mr. White, 3 years go by and she can't verify that that was a part of her life until her husband had his heart transplant. So verifiability is something that requires time. So you have to give it a little bit of time, okay? And then, does the information help the person to experience and express love? And then finally, does the information give helpful and hopeful alternatives? If you can't answer yes to all of these questions, then it could be the reader's ego, it could be the fear component, all of those different things. Negative energy really isn't about negative spirits. It's more about negative people and the ego's involvement. And so when spirit speaks to us, it's always a loving energy, and we always have free will. So you have options, you have alternatives, and spirit and your cards will share helpful and hopeful and loving pathways for your choice. So those are the 3 standards of good information. And whether you're getting a reading or giving a reading, I guarantee if you use those standards for life, you'll never walk away with somebody's ego jump all wrapped up into your belief about what's going to happen.
Very true, very true. Okay, let's go to another question. Julie asks, are the cards always right? How can that be if they are always right and never wrong? Well, I see the accuracy of readings to be about the issue. If you get a travel card when you're asking about traveling, that's an accuracy of the issue. I don't really look at things as right or wrong. I look for the guidance in the cards. And usually, if you do get an outcome, it does, again, exist in energetic potential. And usually there's some information that allows you to see if I can make sure that outcome that I want is coming to fruition. So I look at the card readings more as a guidance thing as opposed to a right or wrong thing. People do call for appointments who want to know, is this going to happen or is that going to happen? And I always ask about the energy of the situation. So I don't say that they are always right, because again, if a card reading may predict something and the energy changes and a different outcome may happen. That doesn't mean that the reading was wrong. It was just indicative of one energetic reaction, one energetic outcome. So try not to get too locked into that, because then you get locked into performance and getting the right answers all the time. And that gets you into your left brain, which shuts the door. You don't want
Closes intuition. If you're in your left
intuition.
brain, you can't get an intuitive thought because you're in analysis, not in receptivity and perception. So, but don't forget, everybody has free will.
That's right.
And the cards can help predict the trends, but individuals, and certainly when you're asking a question about committees making a decision about something like a job or something, you've got the free will of a dozen people.
Many people, yeah.
And so you can't make an absolute, because if you could make an absolute, then everybody could get one reading for life because they have no free choice. And then that would be put all of us out of work, I think.
That's right.
So, only joking. And all of us out of our own evolutions, because it is our free will that directs us on our path.
Yeah, so don't worry about the right or wrong.
Yeah.
Just look for the guidance. And if you're doing a reading for someone else, you can always explain to them about the energetic potential and the outcome existing in that. And this is how I see it right now based on today's energy. And then let it go. Don't worry about it. Don't be perfectionistic about it, because you want to just be open to Spirit's information.
Absolutely. Okay, so one of our other questions, this is one, but it's very similar to a number we got. How can I be a conduit daily for Spirit to give the messages others need? We've also got, how do I talk to Spirit while I'm reading cards, all of that type of thing. First thing you have to do is practice to connect with your guides every day, your own guides. So you start to put yourself in the position of being with Spirit on a conscious basis over and over and over again. Use daily visualizations to help you get in touch with your spirit people, and then start to open it to get in touch with other people's spirit people. And now practice with symbols. You know, if you're a clairvoyant, and even if you're clairsentient, Spirit often talks in symbols. So you want to keep a journal and say, oh, a rose is love, a red rose is love, a white rose is this. But that's the universal meaning. Maybe a red rose is something totally different for you. This is why it's important to keep a journal, okay, of all the symbols. Okay, and when you're connecting with Spirit, use command words to open to Spirit immediately. Believe it or not, stepping into the Spirit world just happens in a flash, and you can be there with a simple single command. Now, I have, if you go to my Facebook page, Sharon Ann with an E at the end of it, Klingler, Klingler, and go to the videos there, you will find one of the videos that is command words to open to Spirit immediately. And you can learn that very lesson today if you want to. But Spirit's always around us. You don't have the privacy you think you have. So just, every time you get an opportunity to talk to Spirit, you can say a command word, or just simply determine to open to Spirit right where you're standing. Okay? So make sure, though, that the practice is frequent. You want to be in touch with Spirit every day, right, Sandy? It's we live with Spirit all around us, so let's live with the consciousness of them in the little bits of life too.
Yes, and that's so true. And you do get connected with Spirit all the time. And when you're card reading, you're definitely connected. And Bree asks here, do you have to use the card spreads that are suggested in the guidebook that goes with the deck you're using? And the answer to that is no. Use any spread you want.
And make some up.
Yes. When I was doing the Rider-Waite, I came up with one called The Road, and I talked about it in my energy oracle cards. So make up your own spreads, practice with different spreads, use what calls to your heart, and you'll find that you'll change it up over the years, and there is no right or wrong spread, just like there's no right or wrong answer. Use what calls to your heart, whatever the deck is, whatever the spread is. Okay. Now Jennifer asks, how do I know when I'm ready to do readings for others. You're ready, Jennifer.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. Great minds. Anyway, if you're in this class and doing readings for yourself, you are ready. You might not feel ready, but your soul longs for you to take this step. You may never have read cards before, but your soul has. You would not be in this class if you didn't have a soul directive to pursue this as at least a hobby, an avocation, and maybe in time a vocation. So let yourself, I know some people have this fear of going public or putting it out there. It's if you have the longing to do this, you have the ability to do it with anybody. So let yourself practice and enjoy it and open up to whomever wants a reading.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Catherine and others ask, how do I get to understand the meaning of the cards better? And there's a number of different steps. After study, of course, you study the book interpretation. Just don't memorize it. That's a left brain activity. Just read it and look at it while you're reading it and see how that comprehension fits for you, okay? But after you study the book interpretation, notice the feelings that the card elicits from you. Notice what it makes you feel, because the emotional quality of the card is also part of its meaning, okay? And then start to read the cards intuitively, okay? Just look at a card and say, what's my first intuitive impression? And, oh, there's a loaf of bread on that table, and I think he's going to get a raise. I think he's going to get more bread. I'm sorry, that's an old hippie saying.
Yes,
okay.
it is.
And as Sandra did this evening, meditate on the cards, not all at once. Pick one card a day or one card every other day. Look at the picture and meditate on it. Tune in also, the next step is tune in with the energy of the cards. Every card has an energy. Hold it in your hand. When you look at it, don't just look at it intuitively and identify the feelings, but what's the energy, the vibration you get? You know, in the Akashic Tarot, we have an Akashic Force meditation that actually shares with you the Akashic Force, the energy of each card on every single card, okay? And then the last time is step into the card. Give your imagination the job and see yourself transfix on the card. Just stare at the card and stare at the card, and then see yourself stepping into that picture. And notice yourself in the picture. What do you feel like? What little things do you notice? What big things do you notice? This step is called transfixing, and actually, it is one of the bonus videos later on in this course, this mastering course. So you'll be able to see that. Now, the bonus videos are only available to those who watch it live. So watch the classes live if you can.
That's right. That's right. And one more question. I don't know if you have any more, but there's one here. Lois asks, how does the card reader's energy affect the reading? And it can affect the reading. If you're a reader and you're very tired, it may be hard to open up to the information. What I have found, though, is that once I get into it, the floodgates open up. But you have to use your own intuition. If you feel like you're sick or coming down with something, and you know you're not going to be open to what you need to be open to, honor that and reschedule the appointment, because it can affect the reading. But oftentimes, if you've been reading a while, that gets set aside. And oftentimes you'll be finding that you're giving a reading for somebody else and needing to hear the message yourself.
Absolutely.
So
that happens to us all the time. So, okay, one more question. We have a couple of people, Janet Lee, Roseanne, and a number of others said, why is it easier for me to do readings for others, and but I feel obstructed when doing readings for myself? Emotional, desires, emotions, all of that. First of all, doing card readings instead of intuitive readings, it actually makes it easier for you because you can't stack the deck. You can shuffle the cards and at least use the book meanings of the cards to see what you read for yourself. So I find card readings very helpful to do readings for myself and also readings for people I've known my whole life, because then of course you start to anticipate what you're supposed to know. So then the other thing is to write your questions down on different pieces of paper and fold the papers up so you can't see them, and kind of shuffle them and make them all a mush, and do a different reading on each different piece of paper, and don't look at which paper you're reading, which question you're answering, until you're done with all the readings. That's called a billet. And you can put the questions in an envelope if you don't want to get sidetracked and peek. But you can write down what your readings on the outside of the envelope, and then your 4 or 5 questions will be answered by what you see written down on the envelope.
The billets are always a lot of fun, especially if you have multiple choice questions. Mm-hmm. Some of this is going to be explained more in the upcoming sessions of this wonderful free master class on the art of card reading. And so we really want to close by saying, please join us for the future sessions. In the meantime, put to practice everything that you learn in each session. Let yourself really engage in the card reading. Have fun with it. Really let yourself learn how to trust the process. Receive the information and then express it. Don't give up. You are a direct pipeline to the soul of the universe, the Akashic records of all information. You can get the answers that you need, and let yourself be open to that truth, because your soul longs for you to experience this. Have a wonderful evening.
God bless you, everyone.
Thanks for joining us.